That introduction. Good evening, everyone. As you might know, history is not a big subject nowadays. Many people, mainly the youth, don't find it very interesting. But I believe history is where we can learn so much. Today, we talk about a man. When we look into history, there's one man who stands above all, a king who conquered much of the world before he was 30, a general whose war tactics are still being used by military units today, and a soldier who fought his battles in the front line along with his troops. And we are talking about none other than Alexander the Great. So you might start to wonder why I chose Alexander. As you might know, this conference is mainly targeted at the youth. Born on the July 20th, 356 BC, and tutored by the famous Aristotle at the age of 16, Alexander became the king of Macedon at the age of 20, as he stepped into his youth. And then later went on to conquer 2/3 of the world in just 12 years. Now, there's two sides to Alexander's life. There's a real man, and then there's the myth. Let's talk about the myth. Now, it is said that Alexander was the son of god Zeus. Okay. It was said that Alexander was the son of god Zeus. It was a myth, of course, obviously. Now, as you can see, even his life started as a myth. And this myth went on for the next 33 years, changing the world as we know it. Now, the myth tells us that Alexander was fearless. So fearless that he was in the very front lines, fighting through the bloodiest and the most dangerous parts of the battle. And the myth also tells us that Alexander had every single battle planned to the very last step. This was shown at Gaugamela. Alexander here was 21 years old. And here, Alexander's army went head to head with just 40,000 troops. He went head to head with 200,000, some say 150,000, but 150 to 200,000 Persians. Here, Alexander made the size of the Persian army its weakness. Alexander had everything planned down to the Macedonian center holds the Persian line, the Persian aggression, which forces the Persian cavalry to follow Alexander and his cavalry to the right. This created a gap in the Persian line. Now, this is exactly what Alexander wanted. As soon as that gap came to sight, Alexander pushed back with a few hundred horsemen, went through that gap and attacked the Persian king Darius straight up, which scared him off. He left his army leaderless and lost this battle. The myth tells us that there was another weapon in Alexander's psychological armory. He was unconventional. This was shown at Bodrum, the ancient city of Halicarnassus. Now here, Alexander had 160 ships, and he was outnumbered by the Persians, who had 400 ships. Alexander took everyone by surprise by letting go of his entire fleet. He let go of his entire ships, all the ships, and he defeated the entire Persian navy by land, capturing all of their harbors on the shoreline of the Persian Empire. Now, as you know, power corrupts, simple as that. Even the great Alexander fell to this. But Alexander's corruption was different. Alexander's corruption was, the more powerful he became, the more he lusted for war, the more he lusted for more glory. Now, this clearly shows us that even the strongest and the greatest can fall into the hands of corruption, one way or the other. 323 BC, at Babylon, age 33, Alexander took his final breath. No one knows to this date what killed Alexander, the young, the strong, the powerful Alexander, who was at the height of his power. Now, in his deathbed, the question arose as to who was going to take over, because Alexander didn't have any successor, nor a child. So when asked by his generals, Alexander took his ring up, held it with both of his hands, and said, "To the best." Now, ladies and gentlemen, not even the greatest conqueror of them all could conquer death, which happens to all of us, by the way, obviously. And now let's see, what can we learn from Alexander? This is the story of a man, the myth of a man who conquered much of the world in just 12 years. Now, a lot of people say, practice what you preach and live by example. We all agree to this, yet we hardly follow it. We hardly live by it. Now, Alexander lived by this his entire life. And like I said, he fought in his front lines, and his army followed him even through the bloodiest. And by this, Alexander gained an empire, much of the world at his command. And indeed, his name carved in stone in the page of history. What can we learn from Alexander? Do not fear life or death or danger, because everything as we know it will come to an end. Do not hesitate to try something new. If you want to do something, do it. It is better try and fail rather than to live without trying and wonder what would have happened. My personal advice to everyone, the whole entire youth, is respect, and you will be respected. Plan each and every step. Accept people for who they are. Try something new every once in a while. If you get an idea, try it. At least give a blind shot at it. And most of all, live life for what it is. The world is yours. Take it. Thank you.